greedy people takes us into the lives of two police officers, caught in a web of lies, secrets, and murder. It all begins when Officer Will Shelley and his pregnant wife, Paige, leave behind their old life to start fresh on a quiet, picturesque island. With little crime to speak of, Will is eager to dive into his new role in the local police department, under the guidance of his no-nonsense boss, Officer Murphy, and alongside his partner, the easygoing Officer Terry Brogan. Life seems simple until it isn't. Terry shows Will the ropes, introducing him to the quirks of the town and even sharing his unusual hobbies, like learning Mandarin and making music. But the calm doesn't last. While out on patrol, the officers receive a call about a possible intruder at a nearby home. When Terry becomes distracted, Will decides to respond alone, entering the house of Virginia Catlow. She's oblivious to his presence, her focus drowned out by her headphones. What follows is a tragic series of events. In a moment of confusion, Will accidentally shoots a vase, sending Virginia into a rage. As she attacks him, the situation spirals out of control. Will, overwhelmed, faints. In the chaos, a piece of wood fatally impales Virginia, leading to her untimely death. While Terry arrives on the scene, the truth of the situation becomes even more complicated. The alert wasn't about a burglary, but a report Virginia often made about her son's secret sexual activities. What started as a routine patrol quickly unravels into a nightmare. With a dead woman on their hands and tangled motives emerging, the officers find themselves spiraling into a situation that threatens to destroy their lives. Consumed by panic, Will spirals into fear, dreading the impact this tragedy will have on his career and family. With Paige expecting their child, the weight of it all becomes unbearable. But instead of reassurance, Terry only adds to Will's stress, more worried about protecting his own reputation than calming his partner. That is until they stumble upon a basket filled with cash. Suddenly, Terry's priorities shift. Seeing an opportunity, he convinces Will to cover up the crime and keep the money. Meanwhile, Paige, restless and unaware of the unfolding chaos, heads to a local store for some simple wall paint. There she crosses paths with a mysterious figure, known only as the Irishman. His reputation precedes him, a man who can make problems vanish. Intrigued but unaware of the danger he represents, Paige walks away, curious but still in the dark. As the pressure mounts, Will contemplates confessing to Virginia Catlow's death, claiming it as self-defense. But Terry's plan to flee the scene feels safer, especially with Will's family history painting him as a likely suspect. Terry dismisses Will's lingering worry about the missing bike, and together, they return to the crime scene, this time with Officer Murphy in tow. There, they meet Virginia's heartbroken husband, Wallace, who pleads ignorance of his wife's murder. Desperate, Will and Terry shift the blame toward Wallace, using him as their scapegoat. Later, they stow away the stolen cash in a storage unit, hoping to bury their secret along with it. Back at home, Will finally confesses to Paige that it was Terry who committed the murder. The revelation sends Paige into a spiral of fear for her husband's safety. Meanwhile, Beth returns the speeding ticket Terry had issued to Officer Murphy. Upon reviewing it, Murphy discovers a critical time discrepancy, one that shatters Terry's alibi. At the same time, Keith Crawford, Virginia's secret lover, witnesses Terry and Will cleaning up the crime scene but slips away unnoticed. With suspicion growing, Terry and Will pay a visit to Keith, hoping to manipulate him into confessing. Keith opens up, admitting to his sordid history with Virginia, revealing a scandalous affair involving sexual favors, which is confirmed by his mother. Keith also mentions that his mother picked him up from Virginia's house that evening. Meanwhile, Wallace, Virginia's husband, grows increasingly anxious. It's revealed that he had hired an assassin known as the Colombian to eliminate Virginia. The hefty payment he promised for the job, the very same cash Terry had found in the basket. He's been involved in an affair with Deborah and planned to kill his wife, Virginia, to start a new life with his mistress. But now, with the Colombian demanding his payment and the investigation closing in, Wallace finds himself balancing on the edge, desperate to settle his debts and escape the unraveling chaos. As tension builds, Will invites Terry over for a meal with him and Paige. But what should be a casual dinner turns into something far more uneasy. Paige's questions about police benefits make Terry suspicious, thinking Will has told her about the stolen money. Paige, however, grows more convinced that Terry is responsible for Virginia's death. After their dinner, tragedy strikes. Will and Paige find their dog dead, pushing Paige's fear of Terry to a whole new level. Terry, sensing Paige's growing distrust, warns her to stay out of their affairs, but Paige doesn't back down. She digs deeper and eventually discovers Terry's stash of hidden cash in a storage unit. Determined to protect her family, she hires the Irishman to kill Terry, paying him off with the very money Terry thought he had hidden away. Meanwhile, Terry uncovers Wallace's affair with his secretary, using it as a potential motive for Virginia's murder. But the evidence doesn't quite add up. In a twisted attempt to deflect attention, Deborah teams up with Wallace to frame Keith, paying him an unsettling visit to intimidate him. Will, plagued by sleepless nights, drives to Keith's house, only to witness a brutal confrontation between Wallace and Virginia. The fight spirals out of control, leaving everyone dead, except for Deborah. Thinking he's finally in the clear, Will drives away, unaware that the Colombian assassin is now on his trail. At the same time, the Irishman launches an attack on Terry, but Terry proves resourceful, managing to drown his would-be killer. Realizing something's off, Terry begins to suspect Will's involvement and soon discovers the stolen money missing from the storage unit. The web of deception tightens and the danger only grows. Terry, growing suspicious, confronts Will about the missing money and the hit on him. Convinced that Will had confided in Paige about their stolen fortune, under pressure, Will calls Paige to come clean, but instead, she reveals that Will was the one who killed Virginia. Enraged, Terry loses control and shoots Will, sending Paige into a panic, forcing her to run. Just in time, Officer Murphy arrives, saving Paige from Terry's deathly rap. In his final moments, Terry clears his own name and pins Virginia's murder entirely on Will. Paige, now injured and shaken, is rushed to the hospital where she gives birth. As she recovers, Murphy pieces together the truth of both Paige and Will's entanglement in the crimes. Yet, Paige plays innocent, pretending she knew nothing of the horrors that unfolded. Meanwhile, the money they fought over remains hidden. In a final twist, the Colombian assassin tracks down Paige, killing her and seizing the money. But his victory is short-lived. Deborah ambushes him in an elevator, killing him and reclaiming the cash. Murphy eventually discovers the scene and, with the money in hand, chooses a different path. After losing her own son, she decides to adopt Paige's child, finding some sense of redemption and solace in motherhood. As Greedy People unfolds, its nonlinear structure introduces a growing cast of shady characters, including a masseur present during Virginia's murder and two hitmen, the Irishman and the Colombian, who become entangled in the chaos. The reason for two hired guns in the small town of Providence is never fully explained, though their presence ramps up the body count. The film, while promising unpredictability, follows a predictable crime thriller formula reminiscent of 1990s Tarantino-inspired plots. Despite quirky casting choices like Tracy Lords and Simon Rex, their potential is wasted as they never share a scene. The film's inconsistent tone swings between absurdity, with professional assassins living side by side, and gritty realism, forcing the audience to confront the brutal consequences of unchecked greed. This lack of cohesion keeps the film from fully committing to its potential. The script shines when it leans into its quirky crime comedy roots, but stumbles in its bloody climax and awkward moralizing epilogue. The use of title cards to preview quotes from future scenes undercuts the humor, spoiling jokes before they land. The film's heavy-handed nod to the Coen brothers feels like a "we have Fargo at home" meme. Despite these flaws, Greedy People delivers consistent humor, solid performances, and enough twists to keep viewers engaged. It's an ideal watch for a lazy afternoon, reminding us of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's star power and giving Simon Rex a chance to display his sleazy, paranoid charisma. Thank you very much for watching the whole video. And if you have a movie or TV show that you want us to cover, just comment it down below. We'll make a video of it in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our playlist for more recaps.